crashed and they were being left. There was conversations going on whether they were being left for dead or not. Mm-hmm. If they were going to actively try and save these people on Jupiter or not.
But that's
the rescue mission.
Okay, go on.
Okay, we'll talk about that a bit. But the rescue mission was this spacecraft that you're controlling. I thought we were controlling it remotely. Not that there was someone in there, but the spacecraft was being controlled remotely and being sent out to try and find them and help them, right? Mm-hmm. And what was the final piece of that? So then, you end up, I'm not going to explain the ending, obviously, but that comes to a conclusion one way or the other, right? Yeah. That's how I felt. But you thought there was a person in that spaceship.
Well, as I say, it's implied, because this isn't a spoiler, it says this very early on, that it's like there's an audio clip where it's like the engineer, the pilot is being interviewed by someone saying like, but looking at the plans, there's no place for someone to go. And he just sort of responds like, you have to stop thinking about it from like a human perspective. So I don't know if the implication is like, somehow like his consciousness is transferred into the ship. That was my best guess.
Right. So I interpreted that as it being controlled remotely, right?
Okay. Well, there's definitely
mission control.
There's definitely mentions of him not coming back. So that put that to bed for me, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would have preferred if some of the story stuff was implemented while you were playing, because it feels like you've got those flashes of different visions or whatever while you're playing, but the actual process of going around is fun. I totally agree. It's a cool game to control. My kids love watching it, but and I enjoy playing it. But I just kind of felt that these little snapshots in between levels wasn't enough to drive the story forward enough for me. You know what I mean? Or keep me engaged.
So what's interesting is that this game was a Kickstarter, and originally it had a narration, but then they took out the narration and decided to tell the story with that kind of
interesting. Because I remember,
backwards audio.
Yeah, because this was at Res years and years and years ago, and it started with a tutorial where you were in like a test chamber where this ship had been built, and they've removed that, and there's story reasons for that, which you find out later. So that was interesting as well. That it just kicks off that you're just on this other planet.
What was your interpretation of the story, Matt?
Honestly, I love ambiguous movies, but this was just so ambiguous I kind of stopped paying attention.
I don't think it was that ambiguous. I got it.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're saying you got it, but like, what? I mean, you're saying you got it, but did you?
Well, yeah, because every question you've asked, I've had an answer for.
Is it not just open to interpretation? This, or is it? There is a certainty. I don't think
so. No, there's a very. It's the way it's told. It's not really. It doesn't come across as a game that's open to interpretation, and I think mainly down to that last scene.
The ending,
because it's kind of like going, "Hey, look, here's how it concludes."
Yeah,
and I'm going, what concluded? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for me, it doesn't take a. I thought, okay, we have a lovely story and it'll be impactful at the end. I had no impact. I wasn't I didn't really feel much from the story, and it was a bit too all over the place. So story wise, big disappointment for me. There was nothing there for me at all, personally.
I loved it. I really enjoyed playing the game. I felt it could have been better. And, that's the same story for most games. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds like maybe I've come into this a little bit too negative, because I shouldn't be. It's a really, really good experience. And if you've got Game Pass, certainly play it. I don't know how much it costs on other services or how much it just costs to buy. If it's around 15 quid.
Yeah, it's £13.04 currently.
Well, then
Steam.
Absolutely buy it then, because
4 pence over what I would have paid personally, but
it's really good.
Yeah.
It's one of those games that frustrates me, because I'm like, oh man, this could have been a no-brainer. And I just feel with a little bit of work on level design, with a little bit of work on how you're telling that story, you could have gone from, this is really good, to fucking hell, play this. This is Game of the Year material, you know?
I will say, story-wise, it didn't do it for me, but I think I took a lot of screenshots during this game. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous in places.
Oh, when you fly above the clouds, it's
fly above the clouds or above the water, and the lighting hits like the sea, and then it's like, there's a lot of color in this game, and so many different parts of this game. Like, well, this looks absolutely gorgeous.
That level where you spend most of your time above the clouds is absolutely unbelievable to look at.
Yeah.
And it's just ultimately really immensely satisfying. Yeah, the feeling momentum. I mean, I love Tiny Wings. Back when I played that on iOS a million years ago, and it's the same kind of feeling. The feeling of momentum of nailing when you go down a slope and nailing when you lift off, and in this case, glide to another location. It's really, really satisfying.
Did you find the power-ups were a little bit pointless though?
Well, it wasn't always clear.
It was kind of like, you can now glide more.
Yeah, it wasn't always clear what difference they made.
I don't feel like I can. Yeah, because I started again. I started playing from the start again, and when I glided for the first time, when I started again, I was like, this feels like it did at the end of the game, and it shouldn't feel like that. It should feel like I'm totally restricted. And I was finding a lot of those power-ups, but they didn't seem to do anything. Really weird.
Yeah, I fully recommend this. Absolutely. And if you've got Game Pass, I think absolutely no-brainer.
James, definitely try it. I think you'd enjoy it a lot.
How long was it roughly?
Hour and a half.
Oh, I'll definitely play it then.
Okay. Moving on then. I'm eager to hear. Sean's been playing The Artful Escape. I'm eager to hear your views on this game.
Finished it. Fucking loved it overall.
Yeah,
it was really good. Isn't it? I really love this game.
It's so good.
It's great.
Yeah, it's excellent.
The ending, all right. Like, it's exactly what you want.
It's not the best part of the game.
No, it's not.
It feels like you've been through the journey already, haven't you?
Exactly. And it kind of it arrives sort of exactly where you sort of always thought it would and wanted it to. But yeah, it's how it gets there. It's just beautiful, isn't it? It's
unbelievably good looking. It is,
and I think what impresses me most about the soundtrack, right? It's a music game. It's all about music, but there's no because it's music that you feed into it, right? You not in like a hugely meaningful way, but you're doing your solos as you're running around, and you're doing that, the sort of hitting a chord in midair, which sort of acts as your double jump and all that stuff. And it's giving you like just enough expression within that. And they've held off on like the soundtrack doesn't have any like hooks in it, right? You don't come away thinking like, oh man, I can't wait to listen to like that song again or whatever, which sounds quite damning, but it's sort of integral to why it works. There isn't like a, apart from the, the sort of Bob Dylan-esque stuff at the start, which is a real, sort of obvious, like, here's a song with a beginning and end and verses and choruses and what have you. The rest of it is all just kind of all over the shop, but that's why it works. Because if it was just like here's a song that's 3.5 minutes long, here's the structure, here's the lyrics, you wouldn't feel like you were feeding into that in any way.
Yeah,
it's because you're expressing yourself, aren't you? That's the whole thing with it,
Yeah,
well, kind of, and I mean that's the only disappointment I think in this game is that you're not actually.
No, Dad, don't start you there. No, I'm listening to a podcast. It's nothing to do with Fortnite at all. I mean, they talk about Halo and shit. You can probably hear my thing in the background as well, my heater. Alright, I'm going to turn it back on for now, and then I'll jump on. Cam's going to be in a minute.
Expressing yourself. You're pressing a button to play a guitar solo.
There is that. I think there's just enough.
There are moments where... there are moments where it lets you create a sort of guitar solo, right? Where you can press different buttons and whatever, but they're very rare.
Yeah.
For the vast majority of the game, you're just holding down the X button.
Yeah, and even those bits are like, you've got 5 buttons and they're all 5 notes in the same key, so just whatever, like, which is fine. Like it's perfectly enjoyable. But yeah, I know what you mean.
It's all the other stuff.
Yeah.
It's the feeling that the character coming out and expressing themselves. The customization stuff. You know, where you can say where you're from and what your nickname is and all that.
And
sort
the way
of stuff.
that keeps up. I mean, you know, we talked about the name stuff being annoying. That it, you know, that there's one element of your character where you can just type in your own name, which then means none of the characters can speak it aloud. That's annoying, just because it's really jarring against how well done all the other stuff is. You know, I'm from 16A Park Street, and I'm the general of the Heavy Metal Light Brigade. All that stuff is so good.
If it just come up with that, and then they referred to you as that for the rest of the game, rather than it was that sucked.
It did.
I agree that plays into the whole story and theme
but
expression,
it also
but I think
destroys
that let it down.
Yeah.
Hate that.
But just like, you know, broadly speaking, because I feel like there's a lot of indie games now that are like, oh, it's a you know, a coming of age story, you know, people figuring out, like Sable, for example, everyone's lauding that as like a really good, you know, coming of age story that's about finding your identity and choosing who you want to be, etc., which for me felt completely flat, whereas this was like, fuck yes, so proud of my little guy, you know, creating this identity for himself
100%,
and sort of coming out of this, you know, his uncle's shadow and being himself. Just a really, really good feeling. Really loved it. I also love that by the end, you know, because obviously the game is full of, you know, trippy visuals, but at no point is it not completely literal about what's happening? Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not playing it and thinking like, oh right, has he taken something, and is that why all this weird shit is happening? It's like, no, he found this secret place and now he's on a spaceship and he's touring the galaxy. Fuck off. It's no more or less complicated than that. Which I loved. Wonderful game.
The bit where you get to customize your cat, dress them up, and all that stuff. It's so good.
Yeah, proper good.
So good.
Yeah,
and
what's so amazing about that point is that the game is obviously, you know, there's a story. You feel like you're maybe supposed to be one person, you know, given everything, but then you can actually take it whatever way you truly want to take it character-wise. Yep. And so I thought that was brilliant, because you can think, okay, well, the story is telling me I should probably be, you know, dress like this kind of character, but actually no, you can truly be yourself at that point, and that's why I think it's so clever. And
the section after that, where you just told, like, look, everyone here is like obsessed with fashion, and they just say, like, look, when you first go in, they'll all fucking hate you, but fuck them, don't matter, just push on. And I just thought that was great. It's really nicely done.
And, you know, people could turn around and say, but you don't actually do anything. You know, there's no challenge. There's no, you know, platforming. You're not actually doing anything. And I get that. You know, I'm not going to turn around and say, oh, no, actually, it's good because of this. Because if that's what you're after from games, you're not going to find that. Yeah. It's not that type of game. But for me, it didn't matter. You know, that wasn't a concern for me, that I wasn't playing a game. You know, I was sort of just pushing forward and enjoying all the visual treats that it had for me. You know,
it felt much more like an experience than a game, really.
It really did, yeah. And again, with the music as well, there's some people that are saying, I don't like that type of music. Well, okay, fine. If you're at a point where you can't appreciate that type of music, regardless of how it's presented, then you ain't going to find any enjoyment in it.
See, I don't know, because
this game is.
I don't tend to like that end of like prog, stuff.
I can't stand it. Sure.
Whereas for me, this totally works.
I can still look at that and go, "Fucking hell, it works," and it makes me appreciate that music a little bit. You know, the sort of prog rock, the 80s style, like, you know. I mean, it is very much like David Bowie.
The big hair, all that sort of stuff, and the costumes.
David Bowie is Bob Dylan's nephew, and he wants to be David Bowie and not Bob Dylan.
Because was Lightman supposed to be Hendrix as well? I thought maybe.
Oh God, there's a lot of Hendrix in there, for sure. But
again, it's great how it touches upon all these, you know, sort of, you know, there's like real sort of, you know, real life musical touchstones there without it being too blatant. I mean, the Dylan stuff is quite on the nose, but other than that,
yeah, it really is. Have you the soundtrack is on Spotify?
Yeah.
Go and listen to those Dylan tracks, and it's hilarious.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
On the nose.
Yeah, that's why I was saying it when I first talked about this on the show. It's really interesting because you open up the game and it's like initially it's like, oh my god, like this track's really beautiful, like this is great, and then 5-10 minutes into the game it's like, oh no, the main character really resents this style of music and this sort of and his uncle and all the rest of it, and then it's sort of and then when you look at the lyrics it's like, oh, this is like a parody of like American folk music. It's so sort of Route 1, like, oh, it's fields and trees and rivers and shit, oh, that's amazing. Like it's like it, and it's sort.
I also feel. I don't know if you felt this as well, but I also feel that it wasn't disrespectful.
No, that's what's fascinating.
And the people that like it.
It's a loving tribute
just
that also
that character doesn't like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, it's just not for him. And I think it's sort of And there's one bit of dialogue towards the end, which again I won't spoil. But it's just literally it's like two lines, 2 sentences, but it pulls that all back together really nicely, I thought.
Yeah, it really does. It's a brilliant game. If you've not played it, definitely check it out. Again, on Game Pass. But well worth it. If you sound like you might be interested in it, then, I mean,